At a point in the program where, unfortunately, we have to give each of our guests a chance to summarize their final thoughts. We will begin and proceed in order of the arrangement here on the stage with Ambassador Ranneberger. You will each have about a minute. What can you tell us that you haven't had a chance to say already?
Well, I think, you know, again, watching this process, look, I went out to Darfur in January of 2004. We heard reports of what was happening in Darfur in 2003. The rebels launched these attacks, the government launched the Janjaweed. I flew over Darfur. It was the worst thing I'd ever seen in my life. It was like a scene out of Armageddon. Villages burning as far as the eye could see. As a result of that, and that sort of ground truth reality, I was very pleased that the administration moved so quickly. Within weeks, we had sought a resolution in the UN Security Council. It ended up being a presidential statement. President Bush was the first leader in the world to speak out. We've passed 4 UN Security Council resolutions to maintain pressure. We have put billions of dollars into support for the Comprehensive Peace Agreement and humanitarian relief. 85% of humanitarian relief is being provided by the United States. So the one thought I would leave you with, the level of U.S. engagement is tremendous. And again, I repeat what I said earlier. It is what lays the basis for stopping the violence completely in Darfur and to achieve a political accord.
John Sawyer, journalist who's been to Darfur many times, produced a documentary about his experiences there. Your final thoughts?
I agree the level of engagement is tremendous. As we said before, it's more than any other country, but it's not enough. And my sense is that I feel that a year or two ago, we somehow went off track. That I think that we had the process, I think was a very good process. I think the idea of building up the African Union, using the African Union troops as a force to deal not just with Sudan, but with many other conflicts that have arisen across Africa that we're not really equipped in Europe and the United States to go in and do ourselves. It's far better to use Africans, to have Africans staff up and have the ability to do that. I think we were on the way to having that happen. I think we didn't quite commit enough resources. We were not quite successful enough in persuading the Europeans and the Japanese to write checks as well, so that that money could be done. The African Union could have been the bigger force. I think it's still possible to do that, and I'd rather see us seize that opportunity than spend a lot of spinning wheels, in effect, trying to get a resolution or in the United Nations or doing something with NATO. I'd like to see us build on what's there and increase the presence on the ground and make the space possible for the kind of dialogue that we've talked about here.
Are you headed back to that country anytime soon?
Hope to go, but I'm not sure when.
Okay, John Sawyer, thank you. Dr. Ibrahim Mudawi Ibrahim Adam, please, you're headed back to that country sometime soon. You've been in jail 3 times over there. Do you fear for your life when you get back there? And your final thoughts, please, as well.
The risk is always there.
The risk is always there, you said.
Yeah, and you know, one thing I always say that, you know, troops never solve this problem. An international community cannot solve our problem as Sudanese. We need the international community to assist Sudanese who are working for this without protection, to protect them, to negotiate a peace deal. And peace is always negotiated while war is going on. You cannot speak about security and peace. You speak about security and insecurity is there. So you have to negotiate. People who are fighting, they always come and negotiate. You cannot disarm anybody without his will. You have to get him to this negotiating table. He has to be part of it. He has to feel he is part of the solution. The international community can make the environment by pressurizing the Sudanese government to allow this to happen, by putting more effort, by assisting, by protecting Sudanese to involve in the process. I hope we don't make it wrong again, that the CPA have been negotiated under pressure, and now it's not going anywhere.
Dr. Mudawi Ibrahim Adam, we're all impressed by your courage, genuinely, and we wish you well when you go back to Sudan. Finally, author and Pulitzer Prize winner Samantha Power, your final thoughts.
When the U.S. government began talking about a NATO bridging force, I went to see a very senior French official, thinking that since the French had a lot of action going on in Africa, that they'd be a good place to start, to get a rundown as to who in NATO actually might be interested in supplying advisors or equipment or troops. And as I went through each of the countries that comprise NATO, I got one answer after another was no, I don't think, no, no, not them. And then when I got to the Canadians, the senior French official said, oh, no, 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 definitely not. After Rwanda, I don't think so. And so one of the things that's so amazing is all these students who are out there in America who've put such sustained pressure on the Congress, which in turn has put such sustained pressure on the executive branch of the Bush administration, legitimating the efforts of people within the State Department who are trying to get this to move up within the ranks of the bureaucracy. All of that effort is so significant and it has to be sustained, but we have got to figure out a way for governments to learn the lesson of Rwanda and not just domestic political constituencies, and we haven't yet found that way.
Samantha Power, thank you very much. Thanks to all of our panel members for this enlightening discussion on the crisis in Darfur. The verdict of history will take many years to render on whether the United States, the Bush administration, the world, international community has done enough to end this crisis. One thing we do know is the crisis continues. For more information on this subject, feel free to visit the website of the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum. That's www.ushmm.org. For all of us tonight, I'm James Rosen of Fox News, your moderator. Thank you for joining us.